Hello everyone, welcome back to Genuine Chit Chat, the podcast where we help you grow through what you go through. On today's episode, I'm joined by the lovely Becca, who sadly dealt with her dad passing away by suicide. And in this episode, she wants to speak about how she grew through what she went through and sort of be there to make people that are going through it not feel alone. And this episode is a great one, and I'm so proud of her through this journey. So yeah, let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back. Welcome onto the show, girl. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on today. Let's sort of give the listeners a bit of context why you're on. When I saw you the other day, you mentioned that when you were younger with what you've been through, you'd want to listen to an episode like this to help you heal and feel like you can relate to someone and feel like you weren't on your own going through that. So do you want to get like a bit of context about what your story is about just briefly, and then we'll get into like how you dealt with it?
Yeah, so in 2012, when I was 12, my dad committed suicide. And I thought, as I said, there's not been that many episodes like this when I was younger, especially because I was 12. It was 2012, podcasts hadn't really taken off. So there was sort of like books and films and that sort of thing, but there was no one, because I was so young and I didn't know anyone in a similar position, there was no one who I could relate to who just gave a sort of like genuine, like normal response to it almost, that wasn't sort of programmed on books or a documentary or something. And then obviously it's November when we're recording this, which is Movember, so I felt like it was a good time to come on and sort of spread the message. Yeah, and also just give a sort of a space for someone to feel like even if they aren't ready to talk yet, they're listening to someone else doing it, and hopefully that's
100%.
helpful.
Yeah, because you said that you were actually searching for like videos or something and there was just nothing.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously the sort of more classic routes like therapy or books or films. But yeah, especially because I was 12. When you get older, unfortunately, more and more people go through loss and maybe you can feel a bit more connected. But at that point, other than my family, which was a difficult sort of wound to open with them, I didn't really know where to turn to sort of feel seen or heard from someone who was similar.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, so when you were looking for that episode or just someone speaking about what you'd been through, what was it, what sort of message were you wanting to get from, or like what feelings were you wanting to get from having something like that to watch or listen to?
I think initially, sort of in the earlier stages, probably just comfort and feeling. I was the only person I knew sort of my age who was going through something like that. Or, well, everyone who goes through it has their own experience and it's always going to feel like quite isolating. So I think I just wanted somewhere where I could feel like they're doing it or they've got through it, and it was something to sort of inspire me out of it, as opposed to often these sort of methods that I was being given felt like it was putting out fires, and it was almost, it wasn't so much uplifting as sort of, how can I sort of survive this? If you see what I mean? And like, what are the talking methods as opposed to, well, actually, like, let's cut the shit. How does it feel between you and me, between someone who you've met or who's sort of similar to you in background and whatever?
Yeah, I guess that sort of just felt like all that stuff was like very surface level.
Yeah, for sure.
And so with this episode that we're going to get into, like, you want someone that, if someone's listening to it that's been through it, you want them to like walk away feeling like they're not on their own through this, and also like how you've been dealing with it and how you've sort of healed with it, that it is going to be a lot better than you think.
And I also think in the early stages it was very much like I was going through it, but I was also worried about if I didn't want to move on with my life because it would have felt like I was leaving him behind in some sort of way. But now I think I've got to a point, because it's been 13 years, where I can see that I'm never going to get over it, and it's never going to be something that's not a part of my life, but I'll always carry it with me, but it will just get that bit less heavy. And that's sort of the message that is like really important, is you don't have to feel guilty for sort of having those days whenever they are that you laugh and you're having a really good time, and maybe they're not in your thoughts, but then there's always going to be those days where you are struggling and you feel like you're back to square one, but that's just sort of how grieving works, and like that is so normal.
That's good hearing you say that, because I think that's what you would have wanted to hear. And I'm so sorry, like, to hear this, what you've been through and everything. And when you first found out, what was like the emotions you felt? Like, was it shock, sadness, anger, like confusion? Because I guess it's so hard to deal with, especially at that age.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I was 12. I mean, I don't know about other people, but I don't think I really knew what suicide was when I was 12. And I sort of understood like being sad or happy or whatever, but I don't think I really got, and I think probably because my parents sort of protected me from it. But yeah, I remember on the day that it happened, it was just like pure confusion. I did not understand what was going on at all, and I think to protect me, my mum was sort of just saying, I would saying like, why, what happened, and she'd say he was ill, he was ill. So for the first day, I thought he'd like died of cancer or something. I didn't understand anything that was going on, and then eventually, mum, like in her way of protecting me and dealing with it, sort of explained it to me more deeply, and then I understood. But yeah, so the first day, well, I was just honestly a bit clueless and just in shock. And then I think I had months of maybe a numbness, and I think, especially with suicide, you always, the family and the friends look for the why afterwards, and it's taken me a long time to come to terms with the fact that I'll probably never understand the why, and also there's never going to be an answer, and no answer would ever make sense to me,
Of course,
if you see what I mean. But you get to a place where maybe it doesn't get easier, but you can accept it, and you can sort of learn to live with it. Interestingly as well, when he first passed, I really put him on a pedestal, and I mean, he was one of my closest friends and my dad, and of course, but I know a lot of people, which is so okay, get quite angry and maybe feel a bit of resentment that they would leave them. But I guess I didn't really want to think of dad in that way, and I didn't want that to be his defining character feature, that's what he did. It was more, however you choose to deal with it at the beginning. If you are really angry, or if you are, if you think it was a selfish act, that's completely okay. I just think whatever helps you and the people left get through it, that's the right way to deal with it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like you're saying, like there's no like textbook way to deal with it,
No.
like how you can sort of label the person. But I completely get what you mean. You don't want like your last thoughts to them to be sort of based around, oh, that was selfish or whatever. And speaking about that, it sounds like your family thought about it in different ways. Did that sort of cause any conflict, or did you feel like you could open up about certain things, or did you feel like you had that space to sort of open up and speak about it?
Yeah, I think with my family especially, I think we had different ways of dealing with it. I was always very much, I want to know all the details. I want to read the letter. Like, I want to go to, well, I don't know if I wanted to, but I went straight to therapy, and it sort of, that was just my way of doing it. Whereas I think my sister was a little bit more sort of would cry behind closed doors and wasn't as, it was just different paths. But I think the one thing that sort of got us through it as a unit was just like being close. Like, obviously we spent a lot of time together. We built a really strong connection and foundation, and yeah, I think there would have been the space to open up, but maybe none of us had the words initially. Now he comes up all the time, and we talk about him in like a positive way. But yeah, at the beginning maybe less so. And with family, I understood that, but friends as well. I think my friends were 12, right? So what is a 12-year-old meant to say on the topic of someone's dad committing suicide? I never blamed anyone, but I did maybe feel like I didn't know how to navigate it, and neither did they. So it was a little bit of a stalemate at points, and a 12-year-old is not going to have the capacity or understanding to turn around and help me through it, other than, which my friends did do, showing up and giving me hugs and sort of listening. And yeah.
I mean, it's a big thing to deal with anyway, no matter the age, but I feel like especially at a young age it's hard because you just don't really know how to deal with it. I mean, I guess you wouldn't now, not like regarding the age, but like at that age it's not a common thing that is spoken about or you're aware of. And the first period when it all happened, how were you actually feeling? Like, and how were you dealing with it?
It's interesting because I don't know, because a lot of it to me is a bit of a blackout. Me and my sister sort of say, which is so interesting, because you'd sort of hear people who had been through something traumatic and they'd say like they'd lost a lot of their memory. But yeah, I think there's about 6 months where I have 2 memories, maybe 3. Like I do not remember any of it, which is interesting. But I think I had a lot of anger initially, but more so anger at the world. Like I never sort of put the anger onto Dad, which was interesting looking back. And I also think, which again is an important message if anyone is dealing with anything similar now, it's sort of taking every single day as it comes. Like I think I was quite quick to jump to, oh, he's not going to be at my wedding, or oh, he's not going to meet my children. But if you can, at the time where it happens, is can you wake up in the morning and have a shower and go and give your loved ones a hug and go for a walk, and how can you get through today, and then we'll deal with tomorrow. And I think that was, remembering that was how I got through the early stages, really. Yeah.
And I guess when you say you don't remember much, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise that you don't. But is it because you're not remembering it because it was traumatic and you sort of blocked it out, or is it your way of healing with it, that you didn't want to think about it? But I also get from a young age, I don't really remember what I was doing when I was 12 years old as well. So I feel like that combined with like this awful experience like of your dad passing, I think it's like one in one, just it's not going to be easy to sort of take yourself back, which could be a blessing in a way.
Well, it's definitely the brain's way of protecting you. It's fight or flight, right? And
Yeah.
It's, which I heard of it, but I never understood, but it really is like a biological reaction. Like I didn't choose to block that out. I just seriously cannot remember most of it. It's so weird.
The brain is crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's actually nuts how it works.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand how it does that. So random, but I was looking at Stephen Bartlett's podcast.
Yeah.
He brought someone on with an actual human brain, like, and they were holding it. They were both holding it.
What, a real human?
Yeah, a real human brain. I know, so weird. So weird, so random.
You're going to bring one out now?
Yeah, so basically, no, you said it.
Part 2, the brain.
Oh, God, that is so jokes. I don't think I could actually do that. You said you didn't really remember much at the beginning, which, of course, is what's probably expected. But is there certain ways you dealt with it and are still dealing with it now that you'd want to hear from that episode you've always wanted when you were younger?
The thing that surprised me the most about it is like the number of emotions you can feel towards it, the event, and also towards the person, especially, you know, not just with the loss but with the suicide. I think you have to, I think at first a lot of what me and my family were doing was maybe just survival and not really wanting to open the wound wherever possible because it's like a can of worms. But the only way I eventually got through it was feeling happy, feeling sad, feeling angry, resentful, shouting at him, you know, and then also feeling sorry for him, feeling annoyed at other people. You just have to sort of, whether they're rational or not, and whether they'll stick around for maybe an hour or forever. You have to really open the wound, go through every single emotion, and then it really does get easier from there. And I think once I started speaking to my friends more, once I got a bit older and I sort of understood it more, and I did a few years of therapy, it was pretty much exposure therapy, because the first few times I'd speak to my friends or have therapy, I would cry and I couldn't really get it out. And now, I mean, if you told me when I was 12 that I'd be sat here with you talking about it, like literally no way would I be able to do that. So it's every time you talk about the person and talk about what happened, you process it a little bit, it gets a little bit lighter, and also for me it makes me feel closer to him because I feel like he's still being spoken about. And yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, I feel like I'm so happy for you, and like you're in this position where you said you're comfortable speaking about it, like you probably wouldn't have been back then. But I mean, to be fair, I don't think anyone would. Like it's such a sort of awful experience to go through. I don't think you'd openly be able to speak about it.
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah. And did the therapy initially, did that help? Do you think that was like the first thing that sort of started the healing?
Yeah, I think so. I think, obviously, a lot of people, it takes a while to find the right therapist. But once I did, I think it was just a good space to what I quite liked about it was that I got to describe Dad to her and explain my relationship with him, and it sort of explaining that to someone new almost reminded me of all the good when I was in a phase of feeling so angry. And at that point, all I could think about when I thought about him was that he died, and being able to sit down and have someone say, so tell me about him, what was your childhood like with him, what were your favourite memories with him, sort of then the sort of lighter days and the lighter elements of it started coming in a bit more, which I think definitely made it easier.
That was like coming to the forefront of your mind, like those memories.
Yeah.
And obviously we're doing this like for Movember, which is super important. Would you say there was any signs you saw that he was sort of uncomfortable, didn't want to speak? But I guess you're at a young age. I guess that's sort of hard to answer.
No, because also I didn't, until it happened, I didn't really even think that was a possibility.
Yeah.
I think I met with my godfather yesterday, actually, who is Dad's best friend, and I told him I was coming on, and he said he went to a Radiohead concert with Dad, and Dad's funeral song came on, which obviously Aidan didn't know would be the funeral song at the time, and Dad sort of gave him, which he now describes as like a haunting look, but that's the only one thing I've heard that anyone knew anything.
Really?
I think my mum said she thought it was a bit weird that he spent so long saying goodnight to us that night, which obviously now is why. But if your partner spent 5 more minutes saying goodnight to your children, you're not going to think something's majorly wrong.
Of course not, no.
I also think there's been times where I've thought, why didn't I notice? Why it's my fault, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of people do feel that, but if anyone is in that position and wants to do something like that, they are not going to let you notice. If that's something they've decided they're going to do and they are going to follow through on it, they have been feeling that way for a while, and they've masked it, and they've put on this fake brave face. Their purpose and their whole strategy almost is they do not want you to know that they're going to do it because they don't want to be stopped. So you can't really sit there and say like, oh, how did I not know? How did I not know? Well, because that was the point, if you know what I mean.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. And it's so sad that people are going through that process and going through those feelings, those thoughts where they feel like they can't open up because they're going to be stopped. And I mean, it's so important in general, but like Movember, like having awareness about it to like sort of give people that confidence or that assurance they can sort of like, they can open up before they get to that point.
Yeah.
And obviously as you've grown up and people speak about this situation with you, do you think there's anything you wish people understood better about supporting people who have been through this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think, firstly, there's not a handbook on how to do it, right? So I think, well, not for me, and also not for my friends or family. So I think a lot of people want to do the right thing, and so many of my friends have turned up for me every single time. They've been amazing. But I also think in the early stages, I respected the friends who might not remember doing it, but would say, how can I help you? Because sometimes, you know, if someone has gone through that, you just want to be there and do the right thing. But in fear of maybe saying or doing the wrong thing, people take a step back because they think, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to make her cry. I think it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad friend to admit, I don't know how to help you, but I really want to. Like, could you let me know what you need from me? I think that's the first thing, because then you're listening to them, the ball's in their court, and you know you're doing the right thing, and it's probably comforting to you and to them to feel on the same page. The other thing is, often when I speak about it, not every time, but sometimes the first question is, how did he do it? Or why did he do it? And I get it. I mean, I'm nosy. So like, you get curious, right? And it's quite a shocking thing to hear. So I can see why you'd ask the question, but I think that is quite hurtful, for lack of another word, because it shifts it from being, this is my dad and I've lost my dad who I love and who was an amazing man, to just like death, basically. Like it makes the focus point what the act, almost, when that to me will never be the most important part of this story. You see what I mean?
Of course.
So it's just something to be conscious of if, you know, a friend or a stranger is telling you that. If the first question is, how did he do it? It's like, that's not really important, actually.
Absolutely not, yeah.
It could always just be a if you don't know what to ask, it can be, oh, what was he like? Or, you know, it's something you'd ask someone about their parent if they were around is sort of a nice way to be approached.
Yeah, no, of course. No, I get that. How do you feel now about it? I mean, I guess it's a hard question to ask, 'cause it's not just like one way you can feel. But how do you feel now compared to how you were dealing with it when you were younger?
I definitely feel a lot lighter, and I think, as I said earlier, like it's always something heavy that I will carry, but it gets lighter. And I used to feel guilty about that because I felt like I was leaving him behind, and why should I be happy when I've lost one of the most important people to me? But A, that's what they would have wanted, obviously, and B, you know, as I grow older, especially between 12 and 25, like life really expands. You get new friends, new jobs, you know, things are growing and growing, and it doesn't mean that him and his memory to me are shrinking and shrinking. It just means that the other parts are getting so much bigger. So yeah, I think I feel a lot better about it, and I look back at what happened and I feel positive memories, and I feel love, and I feel I would so much rather have had an amazing dad for 12 years than an awful one for 50. So I feel lucky to have had him and to, you know, have so many close friends and family who loved him and met him, and you can sort of eventually see the positives in everything.
Wow, your mindset's in, like, that's so good the way you look at it like that. Like, that's so amazing. You're focusing on the positive rather than, I mean, it's a lot easier said than done, but it's not like an overnight thing. You just be like, okay, no, just think about the good things.
Yeah.
But I think the way you're addressing this situation is so great that you're not, that the memory of him isn't shrinking. Like you said, the good parts are just like expanding. What sort of, like, these good parts, like what experiences do you remember the most, like spending with him?
The one thing he definitely gave me, you know, other than all the trauma, was humour. He was like the funniest person ever. Everyone, like, so witty. Definitely not the loudest person in the room, but, you know, the one who sort of whispers the witty comment. And just like everyone, especially like his friends and mum's friends, I would see them interact with him and they'd be crying with laughter in the corner. He was just always the funny one. Never took life too seriously, which was obviously such like a lovable thing. And he was also very he like loved nature. We called him Bird Nerd. He could like we'd be like out on a walk and he'd be like, that is a gold-crested creep. Like, okay, legend. But now I have such an appreciation for nature because you know he started a charity to save the swifts, which are a type of bird that are endangered, and there was just a lot of ways he just loved animals and nature. And so now whenever I'm on a walk or whenever I'm around animals, I just feel a bit closer to him, which is nice.
That's so sweet. I think that's nice. That's such a nice memory you have to experience that, because you're going to be in nature all the time.
Yeah.
And then I guess when you're in that nature environment, it's nice to just sort of feel that connection. And do you know how to name all the birds?
I can name a few. It's like when I've played categories at the pub and everyone's like, what's category? I'm like, birds. And they're like, all right.
That's my strength.
That's such a boring trick. Pigeon.
Oh god, that is so funny. And do you feel like dealing with this, do you think it's given you a different perspective on life?
Yeah, I do. I think it makes you realise what's important, right? I think a lot of people, and at first I'll admit I found it quite difficult being around people who would moan about, in my opinion, quite like surface or trivial things that aren't that important. Now, obviously, I've learned a bit more patience, but I think you sort of learn like what actually matters, and you know, if something goes wrong or you know you're upset about something, it gives that perspective of, okay, but I've got mum and I've got Kirsten and everyone's healthy around me, and it unfortunately makes you realise it could be a lot worse, I think. I think also it doesn't define you as a person, but it helps you to define what in your life is important, if that makes sense. It's quite poetic, actually.
Oh, bless you.
No, I think I now have a new sort of unfortunately, a new awareness of mental health, but also in a positive way, in that, you know, when I listen to a friend, if they're telling me about something that's getting them down, or if there's an important matter going on, or someone's been through something difficult, and I think I just listen in a sort of new way, because it's not just for them to offload onto me. I will always be quite conscious of, and how are they feeling, checking up on them. You know, it's definitely made me a more supportive and empathetic friend, because you really like never know how heavy that burden or that issue is that they are carrying, and like it's so important to encourage people to open up and to talk. And it's not always the nicest conversation, and you know, as an adult, we see some of our closest friends once a month, and you don't want to sit down and say, I'm actually having an awful time, because it's a dampener on this once a month thing. But from someone who's been through losing someone to suicide, like, please just tell me. Like, I'd rather lose 2 hours on a Friday to make you feel better than lose you, if you see what I mean. You have to get over this thing of, I don't want to ruin anyone else's day or mood or life, or worry anyone or whatever, because trust me, I would rather be worried and a bit upset that you're doing badly than not have you around. 100%. So
You're so amazing the way you've dealt with it, where you've sort of, from this situation, you've taken that sort of route where you're really wanting to help people now, because I think you know what it felt like that. You're so strong, and the way you've dealt with this is so good, Becca. Like this, like, you're such a kind, wholehearted person with such great energy that you want to give people, because you know what it feels like to have that energy taken away from you. People are very lucky to have you in their lives. How are you and your family now? Are you really close, like your mother and sister? Have you got good relationships there?
Yeah, it's definitely a silver lining to it, is they're the only people in the world who will ever fully understand like what we went through, because every death and every family member is going to be different to everyone, right? But yeah, I think I've never appreciated them so much. Obviously, once you realise that, especially when you're 12, you just think, well, they're going to be around forever, obviously. So when you realise that they're not, you know, you just hold them a bit tighter, and you want to spend that more time with them. And we now are at a place, it took us a while to get there, but we're now at a place where we sit sometimes and we'll have a drink and we'll just piss ourselves laughing at stories of Dad. And it's such a nice place to be in, because it used to be a topic where 3 words in we'd all be you know what I mean? So it feels like now it's something that's really bonded us together, and is something that is a happy thing for us to talk about, and like a really special memory that we all have with each other.
That's so nice. It's nice to hear that it sort of brought you closer, because I guess with some families it can make them all run away from each other.
Difficult to navigate. Right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what you've been speaking about is so great, in the way you've dealt with this and how you processed it all. I mean, obviously it doesn't sound like an easy journey, but no one's journey through this is going to be easy at all. But the state you're in now, and the way you're speaking about it so openly, and you're here to help people, if someone's listening now that has just been through it, what would you want to say to them that you would have wanted to hear when you were younger?
You can get through it. Like, you really can. Like, there were days where I was like, I really can't do this. I don't understand what the point is anymore. Your life will never be the same, but it doesn't mean that it has to be worse. You can find the things that bring you joy in the day-to-day, especially initially, and then your life will eventually just continue to blossom around you. The most important thing, obviously, is just put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. Because now, if I could see myself now, I would have been like, oh my God, I can do it. Like, I'm happy now, and I have elements of life that it will always be impacted by it, and it will always affect me, and it will never be something that I can move on from. But I have so much love and so much happiness around me, and you know, if you're going through it as well, you will get that back too. You will get that sort of zest for life back. It's not zest for life, what is it? Love for life, I don't know. But you'll get it back, and you'll find sort of the happiness, and you'll have those, maybe they won't be big at first, but you go for a walk and the sun will be out, and you'll just think, oh, that's really not, just little things will start to snowball into bigger things, and your life it'll get better, basically.
Wow. Wow. I hope, well, no, I don't hope that someone listening to this has been through it, but I mean, I hope they sort of take what you've given away and it can sort of change whatever part of healing they're going through, because you've dealt with this so well, and I'm so grateful you're coming on here to open up as well, because also that's a lot opening up about it, not just to friends and family, that's a lot alone, but coming onto a podcast and speaking about it to however many people are listening, like that's massive. So you should be really proud of yourself for actually opening up.
Thank you.
Towards the end of each episode, I like to give tasks that someone can do that makes them feel good. Mm-hmm. And if you could give a task, what sort of task would you give?
Can I give two?
You can give two.
Okay. So one, I mean, I don't know, it might not necessarily make you feel good, but it will make you feel good afterwards, is to write a letter to someone you miss, or, you know, if you're in my position, maybe I've written quite a few letters to Dad over the years, and they're difficult when you're writing them, but you feel so much lighter, and it helps you sort of process and get it off your chest, quite cathartic. And then the second one is check in on a friend, ask someone how they're doing, ask someone if they want to go for a coffee, and instead of saying, you know, you're right, yeah, you're right, and then talking about something else, how are you doing? It's a difficult one to say, but, you know, I sometimes say to my friends, like, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 today? And it sounds like a silly question, but sometimes they'll say 4, and then that just opens the door into, whereas if it's how are you, the response is always going to be, yeah, I'm all right, even if you're not. So, yeah, check in on a friend or a family member and just say, how are you? How happy are you? My mum always texts me and she says, how happy are you in life at the moment? And it's obviously it's a big question, but it's important to get that gauge on people and see if you need to sort of help.
I think that's great, because I think with mental health and speaking about it, it's not necessarily just that person feeling like they can, it's also the person who's speaking to them about it, making them feel comfortable where they can open up about it.
Yeah.
And like questions like that, I think that's so good, sort of how you feeling out of 10, or how happy you are, how happy are you, is so much better than just like, you okay? It's like, you know, when you go into an office and see everyone, hi, you okay? Yeah, you. Like, you're never going to be like, no, do you know what? I'm actually not.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to do that, are
It's like,
you?
sit down.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So you need to sort of give that space.
Yeah.
You can, even if it is a little bit awkward. Better to feel awkward than to grieve, I think. So
That's very true. That is very true. And do you think the way you've been so open has sort of changed your own relationships with people, where they sort of feel like they can come to you to be open, or they ask you more in depth how you're feeling?
I hope so. Yeah, I think so. Like, a lot of my friends will, big or small issues, will dissect them quite a lot, and I quite like doing that. It makes me feel closer to people. I think as well, just because unfortunately I've been through it, I'm like okay in sort of a crisis, or if something goes really wrong, I find it not easy, but I've been through it before, so it's sort of comforting, I guess, for me to sort of support someone and help them through something big or small as well.
I guess as a silver lining, it's sort of strengthened, as much as you think it wouldn't, I feel like there's definitely ways it's strengthened your mind and your mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, initially you probably never thought it would. You would never...
No, I was like, this has ruined my life.
Yeah, like, of course, I bet it was. Like, but the fact you sort of flipped this and you're navigating through it like this is so good, and you should be so proud of yourself for the way you've dealt with this. And obviously November is Movember month. Is there anything you do to sort of support it? I mean, not grow a moustache.
Well,
don't go to your
way. Now, didn't shave. No, yeah. So there's like so many things you can do. I don't know if you saw it on social media, but I did a cocktail event, because, you know, I could have done a half marathon, but I can't run, so I didn't. So I did a cocktail event, which is a bit more, you know, on brand. And it was like 20 quid entry or whatever it was to my friends, and then I like had some jugs of cocktails, and then they all dressed up as an iconic man. So we had like Pitbull and we had Churchill. And,
I love how Pitbull comes before Churchill.
Yeah, I mean, the most iconic. And then, yeah, I just shared it around, and we ended up raising like thousands of pounds. So yeah,
Wow.
It doesn't have to be marathons. I know everyone's doing them, but there's other things you can do. And, you know, yeah, it's just also important. Movember share a lot of good stuff online, which I think should be reshared where possible, and just sort of you know, keeping that conversation alive, and especially with suicide, obviously a lot of the reason it happens is because people don't talk. So like, let's get these conversations going. So you can support Movember by checking in on a friend. That counts as support, I'd say.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I love that you've done that cocktail night rather than feeling like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to train for a marathon now.
Yeah, no, I was
like just to make it awareness.
Everyone dress up, put your moustaches on, we're going.
No, yeah, that seems like hard work. So yeah, everyone just do a cocktail night.
Yeah.
That is such a better idea.
Sack off the marathons, everyone's done one now.
You're not any better
drinking.
than the other. I love that. And also, is there a song you would recommend that is going to boost someone up that's listening to this that they can play after, or a song that's like meaningful to you? What would you suggest?
I feel like you might gather where I'm going with this, but I love Rizzlecakes.
Love that.
Well, not only because obviously their music is top notch, but because they released their Stereotypical album in 2011, and they were like the first band that I loved, and their music's quite uplifting. And then obviously 2012 was when Dad passed, so I've always I loved Rizzlecakes because they remind me of like that year before it happened, and like a time where I was just sort of a child and I was just young and naive in the best way, and just so they've got a song called Even on a Rainy Day, and it's quite it's quite an upbeat song. It's not like a ballad or anything, but the message behind it is just like, even on a rainy day, you just, you find the light and you sort of see the good, and I think that sort of resonates with. Yeah.
Oh, that is such a good song suggestion. I don't know if I've heard that one, but I'm going to listen to it
It's
after.
also not that profound, but I was 12, so let me know. The lyrics are not that like genius, but yeah, it's a good song and it's the right message, I think.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to put that in the playlist. Well, thank you so much for coming on this episode. Thank you so much for opening up and being so caring for other people, and being in a position where the way you've dealt with this, you're sort of seeing the positive. Like, that's incredible that your mindset sort of got you to this position. So I just want to say again that you should be so proud of yourself, because it's a hard, tough situation to deal with, and seeing you in this state where you're willing to speak about it to more than just one person is so great. And I know your younger self would definitely look up to you. Thanks. So you should be so proud. So thank you everyone for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, driver.
Bye, driver.